Virtue over victory. The fight that matters. Imagine this. It's a crisp fall morning in a small American town. The leaves are turning gold and red, crunching under the boots of a guy named Jake. He's 32, a regular dude, works construction, loves his truck, and has a pit bull named Max who's basically his best friend. But today Jake's not feeling the usual rhythm of life. His jaw's tight, his hands are clenched, and there's a storm brewing inside him that no amount of coffee can fix. See, Jake just got passed over for a promotion at work. Again. This time, it went to a guy named Tyler, younger, flashier, the kind of dude who talks a big game and somehow always lands on his feet. Jake's been grinding for years, showing up early, staying late, doing the job right. Tyler, he's the guy who schmoozes the boss over beers and takes credit for stuff he barely touched. And now Tyler's got the corner office, the pay bump, and the smug grin to go with it. Jake's sitting on his porch, staring at the horizon, feeling the sting of defeat. He's replaying every moment in his head, every late night, every sore muscle, every time he bit his tongue instead of telling the boss what he really thought. What's the point? He mutters to Max, who just tilts his head like he's waiting for an answer too. Victory was supposed to be his. He earned it. And yet, here he is, empty-handed, while Tyler's out there popping champagne. Sound familiar? We've all been there, maybe not on a construction site, but in our own battles. The job you didn't get, the race you didn't win, the time you poured your heart into something, only to watch someone else walk away with the prize. It's a gut punch, right? That feeling of, I did everything I was supposed to, so why am I the one losing? But here's where the story shifts. Because Jake's about to stumble into something bigger than a promotion, something the old Stoics like Marcus Aurelius and Seneca knew all about. It's not about the victory you can hold in your hands, it's about the virtue you carry in your soul. And trust me, by the end of this, you're going to see why that's the fight that really matters. So Jake's sitting there stewing when his phone buzzes. It's his buddy Mike, a grizzled guy in his 50s who's been through more ups and downs than a roller coaster. Mike's the kind of friend who doesn't sugarcoat things. He'll tell you you're being an idiot, but he'll buy you a beer while he's at it. Meet me at the diner, the text says. You're brooding again, and I'm not letting you drown in it. Jake sighs, scratches Max behind the ears, and grabs his keys. The diner's a short drive, greasy spoons and strong coffee. The kind of place where the waitresses know your order before you sit down. Mike's already there, nursing a mug, his flannel shirt rolled up to his elbows. All right, he says as Jake slides into the booth. Spill it. What's got you looking like? You're about to punch a wall? Jake lets it all out, the promotion, Tyler, the unfairness of it all. I worked for it, man, he says, his voice low but sharp. I deserved it, and this clown just waltzes in and takes it. How am I supposed to let that go? Mike leans back, takes a sip of coffee, and gives Jake that look like he's about to drop some truth that's going to hurt before it helps. You ever hear of a guy named Marcus Aurelius? He asks. Jake blinks. The Roman emperor? What's he got to do with my job? Everything, Mike says, setting his mug down. See, Marcus was a big shot ruler of the whole damn world, basically. But he didn't sit around whining about what he deserved. He wrote this book, well, more like a journal, called Meditations. And one thing he kept coming back to was this. You don't control what happens to you. You don't control who wins, who loses, who gets the gold star. All you control is how you respond. That's where the real fight is. Jake frowns. So what, I'm just supposed to smile and let Tyler have his moment? That's it? Nah, Mike says, shaking his head. It's not about giving up. It's about not letting it own you. Marcus said something like, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you'll find strength. Tyler got the promotion. Fine, that's done. But are you gonna let him take your piece too? That's the choice you've got right now. Jake sits there, staring at the steam rising off his coffee. It's not the answer he wanted. He wanted a plan, maybe a way to get even, or at least a good rant to make him feel better. But Mike's words are sticking like gravel in his boots after a long day. He's not sure he buys it yet, but there's something in it that's tugging at him. Think about it like this, Mike goes on. You're in construction, right? You build stuff. Sometimes a storm comes through and tears it all downwind, rain, whatever. You don't sit there crying about the weather. You grab your tools and start over. Life's the same way. Tyler's the storm. He blew through, messed up your plans. But you've still got your tools, your work ethic, your grit, who you are. That's what you build with now. Jake nods slowly. It's not a fix, not a victory he can point to, but it's something. He's still mad, don't get me wrong. He's not about to send Tyler a thank you note. But for the first time all day, that storm inside him feels a little less wild. All right, wise guy, Jake says, cracking a half smile. Where'd you pick up all this Roman Emperor stuff anyway? Mike grins. Picked up a book a while back. Figured if a guy running an empire could keep his head straight, maybe I could too. You should try it. Might save you from punching a hole in your drywall. They finish their coffee, and Jake heads home. The sun's dipping low now, painting the sky orange. He's still got question shows he's supposed to just let go. What's the point of working hard if it doesn't pay off? But as he pulls into his driveway, Max bounding out to greet him, he feels a tiny shift. Maybe the fight isn't about beating Tyler. Maybe it's about not letting Tyler beat him, not in the way that matters. Jake's back at work the next day, the taste of diner coffee still lingering in his memory. The sun's barely up, and the construction site's already buzzing, hammers banging, saws whining, the smell of sawdust and diesel in the air. He's trying to hold on to what Mike said about controlling his mind, not the outcome. It's a nice idea, sure, but as he hauls a stack of 2x4s across the site, he can't help but notice Tyler strutting around like he owns the place. The guy's got a clipboard he barely looks at, and a grin that makes Jake want to chuck a hammer at him. Focus on what you can control, Jake mutters to himself, echoing Mike's words. Yeah, right. Easier said than done when Tyler's voice cuts through the noise, barking orders like he's been running crews for decades instead of days. Jake grits his teeth and keeps moving. He's not about to let this clown ruin his morning, not yet anyway. But then the curveball hits. Mid-morning, the site foreman, a no-nonsense guy named Dave, calls Jake over. Got a change of plans, Dave says, wiping sweat off his brow. Tyler's taking lead on the new housing project. Boss wants him to prove himself. You're off that crew now, gonna have you finish up the warehouse instead. Jake feels his stomach drop. The housing project was his baby. He'd been prepping for it for weeks, mapping out every detail, double-checking the blueprints. It was the kind of job that could have put his name on the map, maybe even made up for losing the promotion. And now? The warehouse is grunt work, important, sure, but it's not the spotlight. Tyler's getting the glory again while Jake's stuck in the shadows. You kidding me? Jake says, his voice tight. I've been on that project since day one. Tyler doesn't even know the specs. Dave shrugs, looking genuinely sorry. I know, man. It's not my call. Boss thinks Tyler's got leadership potential. Just do the warehouse, all right? You're solid, you'll make it work. Jake nods, but inside he's boiling. He walks off, grabs a sledgehammer, and starts tearing into some old framing that needs to come down. Every swing's got Tyler's name on it. Leadership potential? The guy couldn't lead a dog to a bone. By the time lunch rolls around, Jake's sweaty, sore, and still fuming. He sits on a stack of plywood, cracking open a water bottle when Mike strolls up, toolbox in hand. Rough day? Mike asks, eyeing the splintered wood Jake's been demolishing. You could say that, Jake snaps. They yanked me off the housing gig, gave it to Tyler. After everything, they're still handing him the keys. Mike sits down next to him, pulling out a sandwich. Sounds like the universe is testing you, huh? Testing me? Jake snorts. Feels more like screwing me. I was supposed to run that project. Now I'm babysitting a warehouse while Tyler plays big shot. How am I supposed to just let that go? Mike takes a bite, chewing thoughtfully. You don't let it go like it's nothing. You let it go because it's not yours to hold. Remember, that Marcus Aurelius guy? He had this saying, if you are pained by any external thing, it is not the thing that disturbs you, but your own judgment about it. And it is in your power to wipe out that judgment now. What's eating you isn't Tyler. It's what you're telling yourself about Tyler. Jake stares at him. So I'm just imagining this sucks? Nah, it sucks, Mike says with a chuckle. But you're making it worse by replaying it like a bad movie in your head. Tyler's not sitting around thinking about you. He's too busy shining his new desk. You're the one carrying the weight. Why give him that power? Jake takes a swig of water, letting that sink in. It's not like he hasn't heard this before. Mike's been on this stoic kick for a while now. But today, it's hitting different. He's tired not just from swinging a hammer, but from the constant churn in his gut. Maybe Mike's got a point. Maybe he's been fighting the wrong fight. All right, Jake says finally. Say I buy this. How do I stop caring? How do I just wipe it out like you said? You don't stop caring, Mike replies. You shift what you care about. Look, the Stoics weren't robots. They felt stuff. Marcus was pissed plenty of times, and Seneca too. But they didn't let it run the show. You take that energy and put it where it counts. Like that warehouse. You could half-ass it, sulk through it, or you could build the hell out of it, make it so solid nobody can ignore what you're capable of. That's your move now. Jake leans back, staring at the sky. The warehouse. It's not glamorous, but it's his. He can control that every nail, every beam. Tyler can have his housing project and his clipboard. Jake's got his hands, his tools, his work. Maybe that's enough. Virtue over victory, Mike adds, almost like he's reading Jake's mind. That's the Stoic way. Winning's nice, but it's fleeting. Being the guy who does the job right, who keeps his cool when the world's falling apart, that sticks. That's what you take with you. The rest of the day, Jake throws himself into the warehouse. He's not gentle about it. There's still some anger in those hammer swings, but it's different now. It's not about proving something to Tyler or the boss. It's about proving it to himself. By the time the sun's setting, he's got the frame for the first wall up, and it's damn near perfect. He steps back, wipes the sweat off his face, and feels not great, but steady, like he's standing on something solid for the first time in days. Driving home, Max riding shotgun with his head out the window, Jake's mind keeps circling back to Mike's words. Virtue over victory. It's not a quick fix. Tyler's still a thorn in his side, and the sting of losing the project hasn't vanished. But there's a crack in the storm now, a sliver of light. He's starting to see it. The real fight isn't out there, on the site or in the office. It's in here, in his head, his heart. And that's a fight he can win. It's been a week since Jake got sidelined to the warehouse, and he's settling into this new rhythm. The work's steady hard but predictable. He's got the frame up, the roof trusses in place, and every joint's tight as a drum. There's a quiet pride in it, even if no one's slapping him on the back for it. Mike's words are still rattling around in his head. Virtue over victory. He's not sure he's all the way there yet, but he's trying. Focusing on what he can control his hands, his effort feels like a lifeline, keeping him from drowning in the what-ifs about Tyler and the housing project. But life's got a way of testing you just when you think you're getting a grip. It's Friday afternoon, and Jake's wrapping up for the day, wiping sawdust off his jeans, when Tyler rolls up in his shiny new truck. The guy's got sunglasses perched on his head and a smirk that could curdle milk. "Hey, Jake," he calls out, leaning against the door like he's posing for a photo shoot. "How's the warehouse coming? Keeping busy over here?" Jake's jaw tightens. He can hear the jab in Tyler's tone, the fake friendliness that's really just a flex. "Yeah," he says, keeping his voice even. "It's coming along. How's the housing gig?" "Oh, man, it's a beast," Tyler says, waving a hand. "Biggest project we've had in years. Boss is riding me hard, but you know me, I handle it." He grins, then adds, "Heard you were supposed to be on it originally. Tough break, huh?" There it is, the needle, sharp and deliberate. Jake feels it dig in, that old burn flaring up in his chest. He could let it slide, keep his cool like he's been trying to. But something about Tyler standing there gloating flips a switch. "Yeah, tough break," Jake says, stepping closer. "Guess some people get ahead by working and some just talk their way into it." Tyler's grin falters for a second, but he recovers fast. "Whoa, easy, man. No need to get salty. Just saying things worked out how they were supposed to." He claps Jake on the shoulder harder than necessary and heads back to his truck, tossing a "see ya" over his shoulder like nothing happened. Jake stands there, fists clenched, watching the dust kick up as Tyler drives off. His pulse is hammering, and all that steady ground he'd been building feels like it's crumbling. He grabs a stray piece of lumber and hurls it across the site, the crack of it hitting the ground echoing in the quiet. So much for controlling his mind. One smug comment, and he's right back where he started, pissed off and powerless. That night, Jake's on his couch, Max sprawled across his lap, a beer in his hand he's barely touched. The TV's on, some football game he's not really watching. His head's a mess replaying Tyler's words, the shoulder clap, the way he let it get under his skin. He thought he was past this, thought he'd figured out how to let it go. But apparently not. His phone buzzes. It's Mike. "You alive?" The text reads. Jake sighs and types back, "Barely. Tyler came by. Lost it." 10 minutes later, Mike's at the door, a six-pack in hand. "All right," he says, plopping down in the armchair. "What did the golden boy do now?" Jake spills it, the taunt, the jab, how he snapped. "I tried, man," he says, running a E, hand through his hair. "I've been doing the whole focus on what I can control thing, but he shows up, runs his mouth, and it's like I'm right back to square one. What's the point of this stoic stuff if it doesn't stick?" Mike cracks open a beer and hands it to him. "It's not about never feeling it," he says. "It's about what you do with it. You think Marcus Aurelius didn't want to strangle half his senators? Guy was surrounded by backstabbers and whiners, and he still kept it together. Not because he didn't get mad, but because he didn't let the madness win." Jake takes a sip, frowning. "So I'm supposed to just eat it every time Tyler pulls this crap?" "Nah," Mike says. "You're supposed to see it for what it is, noise. Tyler's a peacock strutting around for attention. He's not your problem. Your problem's that you're still measuring yourself by his yardstick. Victory for him is the big job, the pat on the back. What's it for you?" Jake leans back, staring at the ceiling. What is victory for him? A week ago, he'd have said the promotion, the housing project, something he could point to and say, "That's mine." But now, he's not so sure. The warehouse flashes in his mind, the clean lines, the solid work. It's not flashy, but it's real. Seneca, another Stoic bigwig, said something like this. Mike goes on, "It is not the man who has too little who is poor, but the one who craves more." Tyler's chasing more praise, more status. You've got enough right here. He taps his chest, if you stop looking over the fence. Jake lets that sit. It's not a lightning bolt of clarity, but it's something. He's still mad Tyler's face is still punchable, but Mike's right about one thing. He's been letting Tyler set the score. Maybe the real win isn't outdoing him. Maybe it's outlasting him, staying steady while Tyler's busy chasing the next shiny thing. "All right," Jake says finally. "So how do I not lose it next time, because he's going to keep coming around and I'm not a saint?" Mike grins. "You practice." Stoics called it premeditatio malorum, fancy way of saying, think about the bad stuff ahead of time. Picture Tyler showing up, running his mouth. Run it through your head now, decide how you're going to handle it. Then when it happens, you're not blindsided, you're ready. Jake nods. It's not a magic trick, but it's a plan. He can work with that. "Guess I've got some homework," he says, managing a half smile. "Damn right," Mike says, raising his beer. "To virtue, man, the fight that matters." They clink bottles, and for the first time that night, Jake feels the knot in his chest loosen just a little. He's not fixed, not even close. But he's got a tool now, something to swing back with when the world tries to knock him down. And that's a start. It's Monday morning, and Jake's back at the warehouse, the air crisp with that early fall bite. He's been chewing on Mike's advice all weekend, premeditatio malorum, imagining the worst so he's ready for it. He's pictured Tyler showing up, running his mouth, and he's run through his response in his head a dozen times. Stay calm. Keep working. Don't let the noise win. It's a simple plan, but it's his. He's determined to stick to it. The warehouse is coming together now, walls up, roof on, every piece locked in tight. Jake's hands are raw, his back's aching, but there's a quiet satisfaction in it. It's not the housing project, not the big win he'd dreamed of, but it's his work. Done right. He's starting to feel that shift Mike talked about. Victory isn't the goal anymore. It's the virtue of showing up, doing the job, keeping his head straight. Then like clockwork, Tyler pulls up. Jake hears the rumble of that stupid truck before he sees it, and his stomach tightens. Here we go, he thinks, gripping his hammer. A little harder. Tyler hops out, clipboard in hand, that same cocky grin plastered on his face. "Morning, Jake," he calls, strolling over like he's inspecting the place. "Still plugging away over here, huh? Looks cozy." Jake takes a slow breath, feeling the jab but letting it slide off. "Yeah," he says, hammering a nail into place. "Gets the job done." Tyler laughs a little too loud. Sure. Meanwhile, the housing project's a madhouse running 3 crews now, deadlines piling up. Boss is all over me, but I'm keeping it together. You'd have hated it, man, too much pressure. There's that needle again, sharper this time. Jake's mind flashes to the housing project, his project, the one he'd mapped out in his head for weeks. He can feel the old anger bubbling up, the urge to snap back, to tell Tyler he's full of it. But he catches himself. Noise, he thinks, echoing Mike's words. It's just noise. He drives another nail, the thud steadying him. "Glad you're handling it," he says, keeping his tone flat. Tyler blinks, thrown off by the lack of a fight. Yeah. Anyway, boss sent me to grab some extra guys from your crew. We're short-handed over there. You're good with that, right?" Jake freezes mid-swing. This isn't just a taunt, it's a gut punch. His crew guys he's been working with for months who know his rhythm air being pulled to prop up Tyler's mess. He turns, hammer still in hand, and looks at Tyler. "You're taking my team?" "Yeah," Tyler says, shrugging like it's no big deal. "Boss's orders. You've got this under control, right? Don't need the extra hands for this." He gestures at the warehouse like it's a shed in someone's backyard. That's it, the breaking point. Jake feels the storm roar back to life, every ounce of frustration he's been wrestling with surging up. He could let it rip, tell Tyler where to shove his clipboard, storm off, maybe even quit. It'd feel good, damn good, for about 5 minutes. But then what? He'd be the one walking away, not Tyler. He'd be the one losing. He sets the hammer down, wipes his hands on his jeans, and faces Tyler. "Take who you need," he says, voice low but steady. "I'll finish it myself if I have to." Tyler smirks, clearly expecting more pushback. "Cool, man. Appreciate it." He saunters off, barking names at a couple of Jake's guys who shoot Jake apologetic looks as they follow. Jake stands there alone now, the sight quieter without the hum of his crew. The anger's still there, hot and sharp, but it's not running him. He picks up the hammer again, starts on the next section, one nail, then another. Each swing is a choice to keep going, to build something, to not let Tyler's game dictate his. By the end of the day, he's exhausted physically, mentally, all of it. The warehouse isn't done, but it's closer, and it's still standing tall. He sits on a crate, Max trotting over from the truck to nudge his hand. The sun's dipping low, painting the sky in streaks of red, and Jake feels not victorious, not yet, but solid. Like he's planted his feet and held his ground. Mike swings, by after his shift, leaning against the truck with a nod. "Heard Tyler poached your crew," he says. "You good?" Jake shrugs, scratching Max's ears. "Not great, but I didn't lose it. Kept working. Figured that's what your Roman buddies would do." Mike grins. "Damn right. Marcus Aurelius said, 'The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury.' Tyler's playing his game chaos, showboating. You're building something real. That's the win." Jake nods, letting that sink in. It's not about Tyler tripping over his own ego someday, though that'd be nice. It's about Jake not becoming him, not letting the bitterness twist him into someone he doesn't recognize. "Virtue over victory," he says quietly, almost to himself. "Exactly," Mike says. "You're getting it. Doesn't mean it's easy, hell, it's never easy. But it's yours, no one can take that." The next few weeks, Jake finishes the warehouse solo. It's grueling long hours, sore muscles, more coffee than sleep. Tyler's housing project hits snags, delays, budget overruns, the kind of mess Jake saw coming a mile away. Word gets around the site. Jake's warehouse is done on time, under budget, not a corner cut. The boss even stops by one day, gives him a gruff, "Good work," before heading off. It's not a promotion, not a parade, but it's something. Jake doesn't gloat. He doesn't need to. Tyler's still out there scrambling to save face, but Jake's not watching anymore. He's got his tools, his dog, his peace. Victories fleeting, promotions fade, projects end. Virtue, that's the foundation. That's what lasts. One night, he's on the porch with Max, a beer in hand, the stars popping out overhead. He thinks about Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, all those old Stoics Mike keeps quoting. They weren't superheroes, they were just guys, like him, figuring out how to stand up to life's storms. And maybe, just maybe, he's starting to do the same. That's Jake's story, a regular guy finding his way through the mess of life with a little help from Stoicism. It's not a fairy tale ending with trumpets and trophies, it's better. It's real. He's not perfect, but he's stronger. And that's the fight that matters. If Jake's journey resonates, if you've ever had to grit your teeth and keep going when the world's against you, then the Daily Stoic Mindset is for you. The Daily Stoic Mindset is, hit that subscribe button and join us. We're here to bring Stoicism to life with stories like this, breaking it down so you can use it in your own battles. Jake's just the start. Next time, we'll dive into another tale of virtue over victory, with more lessons to keep you steady no matter what comes your way. Thanks for sticking with us. See you in the next one.